All right. Good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Vania Zahra with student ID 23018195. Today, I will make a video to explain my understanding of about a material, a material of grammar for tuple. This video can also be a learning resource for all of you who are watching. Today, we are going to discuss a material that I understand, which is connectors used for making complex sentences with adjective clause. Before that, many of you may not understand what an adjective clause is, so please pay close attention. Okay, the first one, let's look at the definition of an adjective clause. Okay. An adjective clause, also called a relative clause, is a dependent clause that functions like adjective. It is used to describe or give more information about a noun or pronoun in a sentence. An adjective clause must be connected to the main clause using specific connectors. Nouns are relative connector. Example: the student who study hard will success. All right. So from the definitions, we can understand that adjective clause is not just extra word, but an important part of a sentence that help us, a listener or reader, identify something more clearly. In a real communications, we often need to explain which person, which thing, or which place we are talking about. This is where adjective clause become very useful. For example, another example, actually, if I say I meet students, the sentence is correct, but the information is still very general. However, if I say I meet a student who is very active in class, the adjective clause help us know exactly which students I mean. And another important point is that an adjective clause always come after the noun it describes. We do not place it before the noun because its function is to add information after the noun is mentioned. The connector used in adjective clause are called relative connectors, and they are chosen based on what we want to describe. Some connector refer to people, refer to thing, and refer the other like the place, time, or reason. So by using adjective clause, we can also combine two simple sentence into one complex sentence. Now let's look at what a connector are in adjective clause. All right. Connector in adjective clause are words that first introduce the adjective clause, the second connect it into the main clause, three refers back to a noun called the antecedent. This connector help from complex sentence. All right. So the connectors are very important because they do not only join sentence, they also show which a noun is being explained. The connector always refers to the attendant, which is the noun before the adjective clause. Because of this, choosing the correct connector help make the meaning clear and specific. By using the connector, we can combine idea into one complex sentence instead of using many short sentences. Now let's look at the type of connector used in adjective clause. So connector in adjective clause are divided into two main groups. The first group is a relative pronoun, and the second is relative adverbs. But a type have the same function, which is to connect the adjective clause to the main clause, but they are used in a different situation depending on what is being described. So let's look at the relative pronoun as a connectors. All right. Relative pronoun replace or refers to noun and connect the adjective clause to the main clause. The connector who refers to people, the function subject. Connector whom refers to people, the function subject. Whose refers to people or thing, function possession. Which connector which refers to things or animal, the function is subject or object. That refers to people and thing, the function is subject or object. Okay. Now let's look at it in more detail and understanding what it means. Okay. All right. So who is used when we talk about a person doing the action in the adjective clause. Let's look at this. Who refers to people or subject used when the noun is a person and acts as the subject in the relative clause. The pattern person, who, and verb. Example: the student who studies hard will success. So okay. So if I look at the pattern, a person who verb, the word who directly reflects the subject inside the clause. Because of that, the sentence needs to word who to say grammatical correct. And in this example, the student who study hard will success. The student is the person being described, and who study hard give extra information about that student. Here, who is the subject of the verb studies, so it cannot be omitted. If we remove who, the sentence becomes incorrect because the verb studies has no subject. That is why who cannot be omitted when it function as the subject in a adjective clause. All right. Next, whom refers to people and object. Used for a person as the object of formal English. The pattern person, whom, subject plus verb. All right. And whom is used when the person is not doing the action but receiving the action in the adjective clause. That is why whom function as an object, not a subject. We can identify this by looking what come after the connector. If there is already a subject such as I, you, or they, then the connector must be an adjective. Look at the example. The teachers whom I respect is kind. The teacher in the person being described, and I is the subject of the verb respect. This shows that whom is the object of the verb respect. Because whom is an object, it can be omitted without changing the meaning. So we can also say the teacher I respect is kind. This is why whom is optional in adjective clause when it functions as an object. Okay, next let's look at whose refers to for possession. Used to show ownership can be used for people and things. The pattern is known, whose, and noun. Do not use who, he, or who she must be whose back or whose name. All right. So who is to show possession or ownership? It tells us that something belongs to someone or something. Unlike who and whom, whose is always followed by a noun, not a subject. That is why the pattern is noun, whose, and noun. In the example, look at the example. The girl whose bag is red is my sister. The girl is the person being described, and whose bag is red show that belongs to her. And here, the bag is the noun that comes after whose. So the structure is correct. We must remember that whose cannot be followed by a pronoun like he or she. So expressions such as a who he or who she are grammatical incorrect. Instead, who must be followed by nouns such as whose bag or whose name. Next, which. Used for things or animal. The partner is thing, which, and verbs, which can be used with comments or not defining clause, which cannot be used for people. All right. So, which is to describe thing or animal, not a people. It helps us give extra information about an object that has already been mentioned in the example. Okay, let's look at an example. The movie which won an award is popular. The movie is the thing being described, and which won an award. Explain what kind of movie it is. Here, which is the subject of the first one, so it cannot be removed. Another important point is that which can be used with commas when the information is not a non-dividing, meaning it is extra information, not essential. However, which is never used for people, even when commas are added. And the last for relative pronouns is that. All right, let's look at my slide. That, most common, used for people and things, only for defining relative clause. That cannot be used with commands, and that cannot be used in non-defining clause. All right. So that is the most common used connector in adjective clause because it can refer both a people and thing, or maybe just thing. However, that is only used in defining object clause, where the information is essential to identify the noun. Look at the example. The book that I read was interesting. That I read tell us which book is being talked about. Without disclose, the meaning would be unclear. The same idea applies in the girl that sing well is my friends. The adjective clause is necessary to identify which girl is meant. It is very important to remember that that cannot be used with commas. Because of this, that is never used in non-defining clause. All right, do you understand so far? So let's look at the relative adverb as a connectors. Next is relative adjective, a relative adverb as a connectors. Relative adverbs are used when the adjective clause give information about place, time, or reason. Connector where refers to place and the function in which, and connector when refers to time, the function at which, and connector why refers to reason, the function for which. Let's look at a more detail. All right. Relative pronouns replace a noun. Relative adverbs replace information about place, time, or reason. Let's look at the compare. This is the place which I like, and this is the place where I feel happy. In the place which I like, which replace to the noun place. In the place where I feel happy, where replace information about a location, not the noun itself. So even though both sentences talk about the same noun place, which focus on the noun as an object, while where focus on the idea of a place or a location. This is the main difference between relative pronoun and relative adverb. So relative adverb are used after certain noun to give extra information, not to replace the noun itself. The type of nouns determines which relative adverbs we use, where for place, when for time, and why for reason. And next, okay. Relative adverb where functions were used to talk about a place. It replaced in which, At which, to which, example, step by step. This is the cafe, I met her in the cafe. If we combine, this is the cafe where I met her. So where is use a relative adverb to talk about the place. Instead of mention the place again, where help us give additional information about it. Let's look at the example. This is the cafe. We only introduce the place. In the second sentence, I met her in the cafe. We add information about what happened in the place, in that place. We combine our two sentences. We do not repeat the phrase in the cafe. We replace it with where, which has the same meaning as in which or at which. So in the sentence, this is the cafe where I meet her. Where I meet her explain the location and makes the sentence clear and more natural. And let's look at the part of when. Okay, relative adverb when or time. The function when is used to talk about time. It replaces at which, on which, in which time. Example, I remember the day we first met on that day. If we combine, I remember the day when we first met. So why is used so when is used in a relative adverb to talk about the time. It helps us give extra information about when something happened. In the first sentence, look at that. I remember the day. We only mention the time known, which is the day. In the second sentence, we first met on that day. We add information about what happened uh, at that time. When we combine these two sentences, we do not repeat the phrase on that day. Instead, we replace it with when, which has the same meaning on as on which, at which, or in which when talking about time. So in the sentence, I remember the day when we first met. When we first met, explain the time and give clear information about the day being remembered. The noun before when must be so time, like a day, year, moment, time. Yeah, like that. Let's move. Okay. Okay, relative adverb why or reason. A function. Why is used to explain a reason. It is mainly used after the word reason. Example, I know the reason. She left early for that reason. If we combine, I know the reason why she left early. All right, so why you use to relative adverb to explain a reason. It is most commonly used after the known reason. In the first sentence, look at that. I know the reason. We only mention the reason exists, but it's not explained yet. In the second sentence, she left early for that reason. We explain what the reason is. When we combine these two sentences, we do not repeat the phrase for that reason. Instead, we replace it with why, which directly introduces the explanation. So, in the sentence, I know the reason why she left early. Why she left early, explain the reason clearly and makes the sentence a more natural and concise. You and I understand so far. I hope you understand. Next, let's talk about defining adjective clause. Defining and non-defining adjective clause. All right. Defining adjective clause. This type of clause give essential information, which means the information is necessary to identify the noun. In the example, the student, look at the example, the student who sit in front is a very active. The adjective clause who sit in front tell us which students we are talking about. Without this clause, the meaning would be unclear. That is why no commas are used, and that can be used in defining clause. Now let's look at a non-defining adjective clause. This type of clause give additional information, not essential information. In the sentence, my brother, look at the example, my brother, commas, who live in Jakarta, commas, is a doctor. The speaker already know which brother is being talked about. The clause who live in Jakarta only add extra detail. Because the information is not essential, we use commas and that it cannot be used in non-defining adjective clause. So the main difference is that defining clause identifies the noun, while non-defining clause only give extra information. Okay. Now I have some exercise here. Let's discuss them together. Number one, the woman live next door is a doctor. Look at the noun that the woman is known, which refers to a person, right? Next, we check the structure of the after the blank. We see the verb live, but there is no subject before it. This means the connector must function as a subject in the adjective clause. So for people, the correct subject connector is who. So the correct sentence is the woman who live next door is a doctor. Here, who is the subject of the verb live, so it cannot be omitted. And number two, this is the book blank 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 I talked you about yesterday. The noun is the book. Is a thing, not a person. After the blank, we already have the subject I in the verb told, so the connector function as an object. For things used as an object, we can use that or which. In defining clause like this, that is the most common choice. So the correct sentence, this is the book that I told you about yesterday. Here, that is an object, so it can be omitted, but keeping in it is clear. Number three, the student's father is a police officer won competition. Okay. The noun that the student refers to a person, and the clause show ownership. We are talking about the student father, so we need a connector that show possession. The correct connector, the possession is whose. So the correct sentence, the student whose father is a police officer won the competition. So remember, whose must be followed by a noun, not a pronoun. And number four, I remember the day we first met the university. The noun the day refers to time. The clause explain when something happened, not the noun itself. For time expression, we use the relative adverb when. So the correct sentence, I remember the day when we first meet at the university. Here, when replace expression like on which or at which. Number five, the last number. The movie blank 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 we watched last night was very interesting. The movie is a thing, right? Is a thing. After is a thing. After the blank, we already have the subject we and the verb watch. So the connector is an object. For thing as an object, we can use that or which. In defining adjective clause, that is a common use. So the correct sentence, the movie that we watched last night was very interesting. Again, because that is an object here, it can be omitted, but using it makes the sentence clear. All right. Do you understand so far? I hope my explanation is clear and very easy to understand. That's all for me. Thank you very much. Thank you.